that as a defense mechanism. I'm telling you, I see fear.
Yeah.
And when I was in corporate America, I was like, I didn't look at it. I said, oh my God,
white women kill black slave women because we fuck their husbands better.
Speak out.
It's all
I'm gonna throw that one out there.
It's defense.
And then when we had our babies that looked cuter, they killed those babies.
You going there right now? I didn't even touch that. You got me down.
Hi, my name is Madi Dangerously. I'm a photographer, writer, artist. My views on what's going on in Baltimore, I feel like it's just another symptom of the current American climate. Unfortunately, it's just all rooted in racism and hatred and injustice, and needs change all across the board.
Definitely an epidemic. Definitely an epidemic. The fact that you can go out to like these marches and protests and see so many names just of this year alone, like that's very saddening and disheartening. Like that is happening so frequently. Like even when the thing in Baltimore happened, like so many people are desensitized to it because shit like this happens so often. They're like, oh, again, another kid.
Oh, I'm desensitized.
Like, that's and that's kind of the response. It's like, oh, well, this is what happens. It's almost like it's expected.
Hi, my name is JC. I'm a comedian based out of New York City. My thoughts on Baltimore are pretty much very simple. I think the problem is black people. I think that the white power structure in this country has been racist since the inception. They have been totally consistent. And we just cannot fucking pivot. I think it's us. They've shown themselves to do the same thing generation after generation, and we are still in the same boat using the same arguments that Frederick Douglass did in the 1850s. What is wrong with us? I think we're the problem.
But what is how can an epidemic last 250 years? Like, isn't an epidemic something that's like a temporary, like, oh my God, did you hear about it? It's Ebola, like that's an epidemic. To say that police shootings against black people is an epidemic, this shit has been going on seriously since the beginning of this country. Nothing has changed. It is kind of same old, same old. Niggas is dying, niggas is getting shot.
Hi, my name is Shane. I work in human resources, and my thoughts on Baltimore and the situation going on in it are complicated, to say the least. I support the protesters. To some extent, I support the rioters. And I definitely think that a lot of the pushback and a lot of the general what's going on there is rooted in the racial divide.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what constitutes an epidemic. And when we talk about the media, and we talk about the media bias, we got to realize that it could be that it's really not happening that often, but that every time it happens, it's all up in our face. Like the same way that they were playing the planes crashing into the Twin Towers on 9/11 over and over and over again for like 24 straight hours with nothing else on the TV. It's possible that the media is hyping this up because it makes good news. It gets people pissed off. Or alternately, it shows some other people what they want to. Ultimately, it shows some other people maybe what they want to see.
Hi, my name is Maite. I am in sales and I am a poet. And my thoughts on Baltimore are that a lot of the problems deal with the systemic inequalities that are facing a lot of minority communities, a lot of urban communities, not having the resources in the education systems, dealings with mass incarcerations, poverty levels. I think all of those things kind of build up into like a powder keg. And when you combat that with, police brutality, I think this is what you kind of end up getting. So I think it doesn't matter where it's gonna happen, but if you put all of those things in the same pot, you're gonna get the same soup at the end of the day.
I think there's a larger epidemic, we're gonna use that word, against police brutality against people with mental illness. And that goes across all color lines. I think it depends on who you are and what stories you're looking into, right? Because if I was, let's say, a Mexican woman, right, and I'm looking at the borders, I'm gonna see a lot of deaths. I'm gonna see a lot of murders. I'm gonna see a lot of killings happening, but they don't get reported because people don't exist, right? Once they leave Mexico, once they come around the border, they do not exist anymore. So their deaths are not documented because they aren't people. But if you were to get those numbers, they would be probably pretty high, right? And they're usually killed by random like random people who think that they're like protecting the country from these illegals, right? So I do think that it is a problem, but I think if you were to widen the scope, not just from black people, but who the police are killing in general, you would get a larger scope of people with mental illness across the board, right? So then it becomes a different question as to like how police are getting trained and all the other things. But I do think that black people are dying at the hands of the police. Then again, you also have the fact that in the media they don't report black women dying as much, which is another problem that we have. The fact that like the media now, the news stations aren't news, right? They're mostly op-ed pieces, and they're trying to sell you a story. They want to get people to watch. And a white police officer killing a black person is a story, and it is going to get people to watch, and it is sensational. You can like put people on the ground to really like rally and like get your news to like get like hits, and that's what it is. That story is a sensational story, and you're able to like find a bunch of different angles, a bunch of the same stuff, because you know what's going to sell,
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Carlos. I'm a musician studying at Lehman College. And I think the core issue in Baltimore is that the same kind of problem is happening over and over, and all the peaceful acts and protests aren't doing anything, yielding any results. So now the people have escalated to violence to get, justice for all that's going on there,
I feel that as far as the police go in arresting the staggering amount of black men, I guess, and putting them in jail, it's all about conviction. You can get an easy conviction more from a black guy than a white guy because maybe he has money and he can afford a lawyer. The majority of black people aren't, as wealthy, let's say, or in, the inner city. So they'll just catch as many black men or whatever as they can, and then they get credits. It's all about politics and the mayor and all that getting elected because they can get the arrests, but it costs the city money to prosecute anybody really, and a person can fight it. They might lose money on that, so it's really a big money game, I feel, and it's some prejudice in there, but
a lot of prejudice. It's very inhumane at the end of the day.
Baltimore right now, what needs to be done? We got black people dying. Baltimore, Ferguson, what needs to be done to solve this issue right now? Black people dying by white cops. What needs to be done right now, today?
Do you really? If I had one solution, it would be every time a cop kills someone, the black community kills them and their whole family. Wow.
Okay.
You asked for a solution, and it's a solution. I'm not saying it's a good solution, but it's a solution.
Just again, like my big thing is just kind of like investing in people, and I feel like there is I don't know what to do about the fact about white cops killing our black people besides getting them out of our communities. And until you have other people in our communities who can kind of like take control and charge and all of those things, that's not going to stop happening, right? Because they're going to look at us and be like, they need to be babysat, right? And so until we're like, fuck you, get out of my house, they're going to stay in their houses. So that's the only solution I have, is like trying to figure out a way to eliminate that power structure, that like, because that power structure kind of lends itself to like maintaining that status quo, and it's just going to keep going and keep regurgitating itself, and it's never going to be healthy. So until we can eliminate them from our situations, it's just going to keep repeating. It's been happening since the idea of cops comes from catching runaway slaves, correct? Or not correct, whatever. We can bet that. But like, if that's where it comes from, because that's what it seems a lot like.
They used to.
If that's what it seems a lot like, you know what I'm saying? Like, then we need to. That idea is never going to come because that system has been corrupt from its inception. So I need them out of our communities.
Corrupt. Since this is
right,
which is why I think we're in the state that we're in.
Okay, so I think that if you just want a point blank answer on it, what we have to do is not let the black community forget what is happening now. So Baltimore, I think, is the answer, is the beginning to how we're going to get out of this. Like rioting and all that, we just can't let that be yesterday's news. We can't let it.
People forget about shit.
It's going to forget and then die down, and that
People
force,
forgot what the Mayweather
that
fight.
adrenaline, that momentum is going to die out once we keep reminding people this is what they're doing. And even like a conversation is not going to do it. A conversation like this, or just talking to them about it. But once it happens to them, once they feel like oh my God, this is my family member, then they're going to be on board.
See, that's the
So
thing,
for the naysayers, that's what it's going to take. But for the people who just constantly realize it and they see, oh, this is me, this could be me. I'm not going to stand for this. I'm going to join with them. That'll be when, all right, things are going to change, because every kind of big change happened from a revolution. Cuba, Spain, all of this. That's what it's going to take. It has to be basically, we'd rather die than live how you're making us live for anymore, and that's what it's going to have to be. Period.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I feel like there's definitely revolution that needs to take place.
Yeah.
You just don't necessarily think it to be violent revolution.
Yeah, but here's the thing, I'm realistic enough to know that that's a part of it, because I definitely believe, like Malcolm X said, revolution. There's no revolution without bloodshed. I agree, but is it a matter of like an eye for an eye type of thing? Because then when does it fucking end? You know what I mean? And you're just going to be continuing a war forever. Like, I don't know. And I feel like that's a huge part of the problem, like, that we have, not even just in America, just as human beings in general, like this, just being so pro-violence and pro-power hungry, and it's fake power too, because the power that's being sought after isn't even real fucking power. It's titles and it's bullshit and it's all about money, and we're all focused on the wrong things in a lot of ways. And I feel like just as human beings, we're very disconnected from where we're supposed to be, and that's why we're having all this chaos that we're having, that's including the racism and the violence and the hatred. Because if we were all operating on the same wavelength and coming from this place of love and actually giving a fuck about each other and treating each other better and wanting to help the next person regardless of what they look like, we wouldn't be here. So I mean, the only solutions I have are on that plane, you know what I mean? Because that's the type of world that I want to live in. So it's hard for me to say, because I mean, even though I do agree, I agree, I agree with why you would say that, and I agree with why you, but it's just, it would definitely hurt my heart to have to take that kind of action.
I think that racism is going to be here until Christ comes back, if you believe in Christ. I do not think that we should, I have no desire to try to root out racism at all. I do I appreciate that tactic. I'm fine with violence if it's going to be effective. Right. I hate to say this, but we don't have the resources to beat the American government. They're having town hall meetings right now. I think that we need to change the conversation to including outside resources like white people in government. And yeah, you're right. I think by this conversation, I have determined that I'm an independent person. And my mindset is that we as a community, somebody or something needs to just brainwash, put it in our brain that we need to do shit ourselves. Like, we need to make moves in ourselves. Because I do not trust outside resources to do it. It is about reprogramming. I really don't. For sure. I think the reprogramming needs to start ASAP.
I love these people.